Welcome to another episode of Before Brunch TV. I'm your host, Stephanie Walters, and I'm so excited for today's conversation with women in the military. Now, I know what you're thinking. Sometimes you have a picture in your head of what you think women in the military are. Well, these ladies are here to prove you wrong today. We've got all these women here off duty to have some real authentic conversations. So I've got Sheron, Jasmine, and Nina here today. Welcome to the show.
Yeah.
Got you out of your fatigues, your dress blues, like looking fly. All of y'all look beautiful. So first, if you could introduce yourselves, who you are, I guess put your rank in there, and then we'll get into all the real tea and the good stuff. So Sheron, I'll start with you.
So my name is Sheron Collins. I'm currently stationed at Fort Greg Adams, and I am a logistics officer.
Hello everyone, my name is Jasmine, and I am a Lieutenant Colonel in the United States Army. I am currently stationed at Hampton University, which happens to be my alma mater, and I am the department head for the Army ROTC program.
Hello, I am Dr. Nina Copeland, a major in the Army, and I'm a strategic planner, logistics officer.
First of all, seeing y'all cause y'all can't dress like this at work. Like you can't do the makeup, none of this.
None of
So
this.
okay, how does it feel to actually put on some real clothes? Not that these aren't real clothes, but everyday people clothes.
Comfortable, relaxing, my authentic self. I don't have to worry about is my hair out of place. Even I can wear my pink lipstick, and so I'm totally okay with that.
So I'm a lady first, right? So uniform is for the most part the 9 to 5, but it's always a good feeling to get out of the uniform, get comfortable, and get to show who I truly am.
I agree with all of you. It's just nice to wear what you want to wear when you want to wear it, and just be yourself.
Yeah. So when you all first decided to actually get into the military, was it by choice or by force? Because I know you hear two different sides. It's I was thrown into this, and actually no, this is something I wanted to do.
I would say for me, my father was in the military, so I did follow in those footsteps behind him. And it was my favorite class, favorite program. The people that I was around were the people that I wanted to be with. So it really just answered something deeply inside of me for what I wanted to do with my life. So it was not forced, but it was definitely something that answered a calling within me.
So when I was in high school, I was in Army Junior ROTC. It was a big thing at my school. Maybe that doesn't sound normal, but at my high school it was a big thing. So it was a popular thing to do. I was also a cheerleader. But during the time I was in Army Junior ROTC, I found out about scholarship programs. Hampton University was my number one school, so I applied for the Army ROTC scholarship, and I was awarded a 4-year Army ROTC scholarship, and I went to my first choice of school, and then 4 years at Hampton, commissioned in Army. 18 years later, I'm still here.
Well, it was a well thought out decision. My grandparents, they tried to coerce me into going into the military when I was in high school, but I was so determined to go to college first. And so I told them, I was like, no, I'm going to college. And they were like, well, the Army will pay for you to go to college, so you can just go there first and then they'll pay. And I was like, no. College first. And so it was during my first year, I found the ROTC program, and I said, okay, what is this? This must be God telling me that the Army is for me. And so I looked into it. I joined the ROTC program, and that was history.
Yeah. What has this journey been like for you all? I feel like, you said I'm a woman first, right? I'm a woman first. You all are wives. You all are mothers. But y'all have been through some stuff, right? Like the trainings, the deployments, and all these things. And Sheron, I'll start with you. Sheron's my cousin. So I know everything that she's done. Or the things that she can legally tell me. Right? But, seeing you being deployed and being away from your family and just what is that journey and that process like mentally, as a woman, as a mother, as a wife?
Yeah. So I'd say right out the gate for me, my first real location was Korea. And so to never be that far away from home, it's a 13-hour flight, right? Plus. And so being that far away from home, right out the bat, it wasn't a deployment situation, but it was definitely you have to put your big girl pants on now. And so making that transition on my own, depending on myself, and then also being in this big organization where you have to rely on others that you've never met before, was definitely a transition for a 23, 24-year-old. And then to follow on with deployments to Afghanistan and then to Iraq, I think you grow with confidence within your career. And so that confidence builds as you get put on these assignments that are dangerous ultimately. And during those 2 deployments, I'd say I was married without children. And you're thinking, okay, well, I have to do all these things in place for my spouse, and you're thinking of other people at this point. Well, at my point in the career, I'd say also there's a lot of soul searching that occurs, like telling people that you really care about them and meaning it, right? There's a lot of looking within yourselves for how am I going to lead these people that I'm taking with me. There's a lot of training that you have to do. You have to put a lot of trust in yourself, and I know for many in your high road, for me that's God. So knowing that He will be with me wherever I set my feet and place myself really kept me above water.
I would say the blessing in it for me as well was that the things that call me away from home, if you will, did happen when I didn't have children and I was not married. 22 years old, my first assignment in the Army, I went to Germany for 3.5 years, and I loved it. Okay, I was like, you gonna take me somewhere? Take me to Europe, take me overseas, and because I was
pray love,
you
pray love and fight.
But it's like, if I'm doing this thing, I'm young, I'm single, I'm about to take full advantage of this opportunity that the United States Army has given me. So in growing with, being a young leader, being out on my own, being like my first time living abroad, it was a truly amazing experience. Then fast forward, deployed to Afghanistan. Still no children, not married at the time, but in a serious relationship. That was challenging, because we're at war. This is a life or death situation, and as a leader, the staff that's under you, if you will, my soldiers, the decisions that I'm making, they're very important, because depending on what I say or what I don't do or say and how I lead, that could put someone in a very dangerous position that could possibly have them to lose their life. In the Army, what my specialty is I'm a human resource professional. Okay, so you're in Afghanistan. What type of decision are you making, Jasmine? In Afghanistan, that could be a life or death situation. Well, mail is a big thing for human resources when we're deployed. So I left out the gate 3 or 4 times a week to deliver mail with a full staff, 3 vehicles behind me, to the 4 or 5 operating bases around me. And it was me, the senior ranking in charge, with a crew of about 8 of us. And when we left out that wire, is what we call it, we were locked and loaded. We had our M16s, we had on our Kevlars, we had on our, Kev vests, and we were calling in location, going out the gate, and, giving us locations of where we are as we're making our stops, delivering the mail and coming back. Extremely dangerous, but you don't even think about that. I didn't think I thought about how dangerous that would be when I got over there. And they're like, oh yeah, you're over mail operations, and this is what this entails. Okay, this is the real deal. So I would say as a leader, you have to think about the lives that we're in charge of. So it's one thing to go have fun in Germany and do things. It's a totally different thing when you're in a combat zone and you're the one that's in charge of ensuring that people come back safe.
So I'm going to start with, I'm the oldest of 5. So when it comes to maturity and taking care of people, that was like ingrained in me, as a child. So I didn't have any issues with that. So for me, starting in the Army, I had my son, I think it was like my 2nd year in the Army, I had my son. And that was very difficult until when I transitioned and went to Iraq. That was extremely hard. My son was 1 year old, and I saw everyone else deploying and leaving their kids, but that was extremely hard for me because I grew up, I had a hard come up until I wanted to make sure I was always there with my son. But of course, being in the military, you're not going to always be there. And so that was difficult. But I did deploy and I left, and while I was deployed, I was able to help the other parents who were deployed kind of cope with being away from their children. And so that was a great thing to be able to have the experience and understand. And so that's the difference when you can understand, because in the military, if there is no understanding, if they can't reciprocate, like, oh, I have a child at home too, it's different sometimes for some officers or people in general to just kind of have that understanding. So that was great. And so leading others, that just came second nature to me. You know, I was just whipping it out like, okay, this is what we need to do. And the one thing that kind of helped me in my career was that I understood the importance of networking. Like, that is my baby, and I still love it to this day. And I understand how to go out and see who's on the playground, and how can I connect with everyone on the playground, and how could that influence those individuals that I'm working with. And so that always helped me out. So I can not only the information that I had, I can also share others' information as well. And that helped me to assist my leaders and also to assist my subordinates in terms of development. And so that was always a great thing for me. And as I began to have more children in the military, now that's when I was like, okay, this looks a little different. All right, and I don't want to drop my kids off at 5 o'clock in the morning. That was like a no-no. And if I have to do that, then I would have to get out of the military. But thankfully enough, my husband transitioned out of the military, so he was there with the kids. And that was another, like, it wasn't an obstacle, but it was definitely something that I had to deal with the transition out of the military. Until now, he's a stay-at-home father, and I'm still in the military, and I'm grinding, and I'm like, you have the house? Do you have this? And he's like, absolutely not. You know, he's listening to his friends around him. His friends are like, oh, dude, absolutely not. Who's going to be a stay-at-home father? Like, you need to fix that. And so it just manifested differently in the home when you have this woman who's in charge and leading, and you have my husband who's a stay-at-home father. It was difficult. And then as my levels of responsibility increased, that's when I started that's when I started to see some change in myself. Like, okay, you have to really dig deep and dig within to get all these things happen. And so for me, I had to realize it's 24 hours in a day. How many roles am I playing throughout the day? And at what time I'm going to play these roles? So if I know I have to wake up at 6 o'clock and go to PT, I was going to be in mommy role. And somewhere between 6 and 8, I was going to try to find some time to be a mommy. And then if I worked all day, then that means at 9 o'clock I wanted to come home and be mommy. And then I have someone tap me on my shoulder like, and you have some other duties too. And so I was like,
time to be a wife, sis.
Right. I was like, and I want to go to sleep, and I just don't want to do anything. He was like, absolutely not.
You better PT over here.
So, you know, what I can look back and say, there were different times where I had to be intentional about everything I did throughout the day. That was the one major thing I came to learn, like, you have to be intentional. And the only roadblock that I really had was my eldest son has autism. And so that was important to me over everything. Like, I was going to get my son all the resources. He was not going to be a statistic, or, you know, he's a child with an exceptional need, or some people say special needs, but that was not going to be my child. And so I had to go tell my leaders, like, listen, my kid has this special need, and because he didn't look like he was special needs, or he didn't show up as a special need, people couldn't, again, understand that he needed special things. He needed special attention. And so there was a whole lot of friction in my life with my husband, like being in denial, not really wanting to understand, but I understood, and I knew that he needed to get the assistance that he needed. And then I had this job over here that demanded all of my time, and so how was I managing all of that? And so I was just intentional, and so sometimes I had to fail at some things, and sometimes maybe I didn't get the deadline. I didn't meet the deadline, and I had to be okay with that internally, you know. And if my son had an F in school, that was a hard thing to accept until I would transition, like, no, I gotta help my son. So it was 9 o'clock at night, I would wake my son up. It was like, okay, you have to get your work done because we gotta do this too.
Yeah, I know. So each of you mentioned having to take care of other people and always thinking about other people first. At what moment did you start to put yourself first and think about yourself? Or have you?
That's the question.
I can jump right on that because it's near and dear to my heart. So it took for me to have a little setback in my career for me to realize that I needed to focus on myself. But up until then, I was on the go, like making it happen, and I was not taking care of myself. Was not. And so when I had that setback, I realized I needed to take care of myself. I needed to put myself first. I needed to say no to some things. I needed to express myself to others to say, you're making me feel like this, you know? So, yeah, after having a setback. But it shouldn't take a setback for you to realize that you need to take care of yourself. So that was a huge lesson learned for me.
Personally, I think that I do all the things, right? So I don't really focus on the, I guess, taking care of myself too much. I'm also on the timeline. I'm like, 2 more years, I retire, then it's going to be about me. With that being said, it's like, you know, I have 2 children, an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old, and they're in 3 activities each: swim, tennis, dance, t-ball. I have a husband. We've been married. We just celebrated 10 years of marriage in September, being 14 years together. A husband and a marriage, that requires time and intentionality as well. And then I have tons of friends, and I'm a part of tons of organizations that I hold very dear, close and dear to my heart. And intentionality is absolutely a word that I would say that I use because so many people pour into me so often, and they support me and they love me. I'm always being extremely intentional about showing up for others in the same way that they show up for me. So I'm like always on a balancing act. I'm like, okay, well, this organization is having this. I need to make sure that I'm there, or I'm volunteering for that. But can I bring my daughter to this community service? And then that gives us some time. Or if it's church, or you know, something like that, or my friend's having a birthday party or a bridal shower, things like that. Well, if they came to the last 3 things I had, I gotta carve out some time and say no to some other things to ensure that I show up for this person in the way that they show up for me. So I'm very intentional about balancing out my time and my love and support for everyone that's important in my life. That happens to be a lot of people. But what that does for me is that I'm just always running. I'm running, I'm smiling, I'm looking good while I'm doing it, and I'm exhausted. Absolutely. At the end of the day, I'm exhausted at the end of the day, and I feel like I can never really catch my breath. I'm just thankful to be in a position where I'm healthy and I'm able to keep up with this marathon because it's not a sprint. And I don't see where the slowdown is coming anywhere soon until I hit that military retirement. But knowing me, I'll fill it with something else.
Decompress.
But yeah.
Yeah, I'd say for my career, I've kind of, I don't know, it's purposely crafted it to where after those hard jobs, there is a pause. There's a job that I take that's just like, slow down, you get to go home, you eat lunch, you go visit people. And during those times, that's when I really am like, okay, we got to pour back into you. And so, and it's not just me that says it. And I think that's the important piece, right? Like my family says it, my husband says it, the friends that I have, like they say it. Hey, you're slowing down. Hey, maybe you should go get an appointment here. Go get a massage once a month. Now that you have this job where you have time to do that, I think what I've created for myself, we'll say, is just this ecosystem where everyone that's part of that knows, okay, here are her signs where she needs to focus on herself. And you yourself have even told me, hey, you should probably reflect on you and what you like to do. And I'd say that for all of us, probably the moment where I really was focused on me was the pandemic. So I was coming out of a very heavy job. I went to a broadening assignment. For us, that's not Army specifically related. It's the Department of Defense, really. So I was in the State Department, and I had my son while I was at the State Department, not in the buildings specifically, but while I was on that job. But I was able to I was getting my hair done. I was having massages once a month. I was reading books that were not military related. They were just about living. And it really, during that time period, I was really reflecting on what does Sheron look like 5 years from now? Who is she? And so with that, with a really great partner, my husband, he was able to remember you said that you want to do this thing, so let me help you get there any way that I can. And just like Nina, my husband stays home too. He got out of the Army in 2020, and he's taken over the house. And so, there's many a conversation we can have about letting go, letting him do it,
because they can do it
in their own.
Might not be our way, but they can do it.
Way.
Do it, and the moment you let go and allow them to support you, and I'll speak for my husband, allowing him to support me in the way that best fit our needs as a couple, I think propelled me into being able to look inward. To be quite honest with you.
Yeah, I was gonna say with you all being in such high level positions and on the go and having to just lead all the time, it's I can imagine the level of impact. I mean, relationships are hard in general, but the level of impact that they can have on a relationship, I feel it takes a special kind of brother or man to really see that and hold that down. What kind of effect do you feel your positions have had on your relationships, whether good or bad? Because there might be somebody watching out who's in this and I don't know, we gonna make it because this is hard. You know what I mean? I want to get real about that because it's not easy. It's not easy without the military. You know.
I think you have to. Well, for me and my husband's an entrepreneur. But he does work from home, which is a benefit in terms of picking up children. The flexibility that he has in his schedule has worked out very well, and he's been very supportive of my career. But I think when it comes down to each move and each assignment, we just have to sit down and reassess what this looks like for us. What are your goals for yourself and his business? What are my goals in this job? And what are the things that I would like to accomplish? And that's just an ongoing, it's continuous, that we have to just see how we are both getting the things that we want, both being mindful of each other's careers, and supporting each other. And it's hard work, because mine might be very structured, and it's what it is, and it doesn't matter what I want and how I want it to look. This is the output that I have to provide. So it just looks different, and we've had, I guess, about on our third move, which is actually I'm very thankful of. We didn't get married until my 10-year point in the military, so that's been a blessing. In and of itself, we haven't been on this road married all 18 years. It might look different, So I said I'm on a timeline here. I have 2 years left. But I would say, and I just want to add, going back, if you don't mind, to the other question when it comes down to self-care, therapy. Right? I see a therapist. I'm in a therapist's office either once a month or once every 3 weeks. And I think that's something that I've been doing that for the last 2 years. And I think that's great because I just go in there and I just release. Yeah. I just let it go. And I think that is probably the best thing that I have done for myself as I'm always going. That's my safe space. I go in there and I talk about, I could be in there crying, lay it all out, or I could be in there laughing and just talking about my success, or even just some strategic planning in there as I like to move forward and what that looks like. So that has worked out very well for me too. So back to this.
Or even how it's impacted your children too. Especially raising, daughters. That's a whole other level of stuff.
Yeah, we have a blended house, so there's 5. Not all 5 are mine, obviously, but the difference in age, and then the difference in just thought between generations, and then again with me and my husband coming together and being okay, what did this one say to you, and what do you say to them? Let's make sure we're on the same page. Doing that constant revolving around them, it's hard work, and then even agreeing with each other is hard work. We call it heated fellowship in my house when we disagree on heated fellowship.
Heated fellowship.
When we disagree on certain things, whether it's with the kids or ourselves or where we're going, but we still come to an answer in the end. We work as hard as it may be, what are we going to do together? And so that is always hard. And now we're doing it with each other. We're doing it with these 5, and then we're doing it with our extended family, our parents who are helping us, our aunts and uncles who are there, cousins who are there. It's constant work. It's constant work. It is.
Well, I would say therapy is definitely an outlet.
Yes.
Right. And I just want to say, listen, it is okay. I know in the military, sometimes we see it as a hard thing or like it's a bad thing and we want to suppress it and we want to keep it silent. Like we don't want to tell anyone that we are going to therapy. But it's so okay to go to therapy. Now, relationship-wise, can we keep it real?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, my husband and I have been together for 15 years, married 15 years, and been together for 22 years. Being in the military, we both started out doing military. And so that was a struggle every day. Every day it was like who career was most important, unfortunately. And so when he got out, it was like, okay, he understands this is going to be easy. Life happens, he transitioned, and it was not easy. And I was like, oh, we may have to do something about this. So really wasn't sure if we were going to make it in terms of relationship or not, because he was bitter and not so much of he understood what I was going through, but because he was upset at the fact that he transitioned from the military, it made it a little difficult. And then once we started having kids, I was like, you had a house, right? And he was like, and I was like, well, how is this going to affect our marriage? And then how was that affecting the children? Because I still came home and did all the things. I did all the things in the military, and I came home and did all the things, and then he was there. And I was like, oh, okay. Another round of, we're not going to do this. Are we going to make it through this? And a lot of marriages in the military fail because someone is not pressing through the hard time. Someone doesn't have that level of understanding. However, as the kids matriculated in age and they became a little bit more dependent, we started having more conversations and going to therapy, and the military wasn't so much the focus because I was like, I gotta do this. I have to make the next rank. Okay, so I'm not gonna be home. And you come home and you drop your bags and you do your work and you out there. Okay.
That's real. I mean, marriage is hard in general, but when you add another layer of like, oh, I'm about to be potentially deployed, or we got to move in 2 months, and I ain't gonna see you for the. So what does that mean? I ain't gonna see you. Like that's a whole other level of conversation. Thank you for being vulnerable enough to share that. Like that's deep. In this next season for each of you, like what is bringing you joy for you outside of your profession, outside of who you are at work? What's bringing you joy?
I'd say right now, human connection is bringing me a lot of joy, and I think it's also coming out of the pandemic. I think coming in with a new game plan. So I just finished an assessment program, and one of the things that came out of that was like you need to get comfortable telling your story, and so. I was like, am I uncomfortable talking about me? And I am.
You are. Thank you for being here.
But with that is the human connection of, hey ma'am, I saw you at this event doing this thing and I really connected with you on that. Or, oh, I remember you from 2 years ago when you were the only female officer in the room briefing this general officer. Oh, I remember you when you were walking past me and you were briefing so-and-so on this particular thing. And he doesn't connect with you until you connect with someone and you're talking and you're just like, oh, we were at the same place at the same time. How can I help you do what you need to do for your career? Those types of triumphs are just feeding me right now. And it's not just Army-wise, it's everywhere. So there was a young lady that I had worked with. And she was just like, "Are there any openings, like kind of where you are? What are your thoughts on working for the government?" And I was explaining everything that I do, and this is where I'm at now. And she was just like, I didn't know any of that. And I was like, "Well, I'm here if you want to talk about it." But we had never had a real conversation up until maybe 2 days ago. And so I came home, my husband was like, "You're in a good mood?" And I'm like, "Oh, I talked to this person I hadn't talked to in a really long time." And I shared a piece of me that I wasn't prepared to share. And it answered the mail for her. And I just felt really happy about it. And that's lately has been sending me, I guess, into the stratosphere.
I would say what's exciting for me at this time, as I am looking forward to transitioning out of the military in a couple of years, is just what does the future hold for me? I want to write. I want to write books. I want to get into entrepreneurship in terms of maybe opening a restaurant or opening a franchise and just a gym. I just kind of feel like I'm in a place where over the last 18, soon come 20 years, I have been this person in my life. And I've done all the things that I wanted to do. I've done all the things that are required. And now it comes where I will lack that structure and I just kind of get to be a free bird. What does that little bird want to do? What are all the things, all my heart desires, all the visions that I have, the things that I pray about, the things that God puts on my heart? What does that look like for me? And just kind of taking some time to figure that out and starting to put some things in place to ensure that I manifest the things that are becoming important to me or I'm excited about. That's what I'm very excited about. Relationships for me have always been the thing that keeps me. For my friendships, my family, my children, my husband. Oh yeah, relationships. Like I mentioned earlier, I go hard in that. I go hard in that realm. You was at my stuff, I'm gonna be at your stuff. Give me all the dates out, 2 years out. Give it to me now. Go ahead and plan calendar. Other things come up. Nope. So we've been married in 2 years. So no, for me, my relationships sustain me. My girlfriends. My network, my network has grown substantially over the last 2 years, and I'm very blessed in and of itself. So I would say those are the things that I'm excited about.
I am excited about walking in my purpose, finding who the real Nina Copeland is, and so that has been very exciting. I am starting into entrepreneurship, launching Copeland's Coaching and Consulting, where I focus on executive life coaching and leadership development training. I am passionate about people and developing people. And so that's adults and that's children, and especially children with exceptionalities. That is my heart. And so I just want to continue to just pursue my passion and see what God has next for me, because I know it is something exponential, and I just want to be ready to walk into it. And I don't want to be fearful about anything. I just want to walk in my purpose and what God has called me to do.
Amen. On that note, ladies, I'm grateful to have had this conversation with you all. Thank you for sharing your expertise and your experience, and I hope you all enjoyed and got to get out of your army fatigues and got to, play dress up today. But thank y'all for sharing your stories. And you all can find more information about Before Brunch TV and watch this episode and previous episodes at beforebrunchtv.com.